Hey, this is Politics with Laura, to where everything is politics. Whether if it's here locally in the US or if it's international, you will get the true news because I use newspapers from around the world. Politicians here or politicians over there, or if there's a war here or a war over there, I would make sure that you know about it. Hey, I got a good one for you today. I've been asked this question several times and I have an answer for you. I have an answer for you. And it's not even from my mouth. Now, there's a lot of speculation about Donald Trump being a racist. Now, in my other videos on my other channel, BGD or Big Girl Diary, when I'm talking about Marilyn Manson, he's accused of being a racist. And I tell people being a racist is not a spectator sport. You don't sit there and just go back and just look. It's like playing tennis. No, you got to get involved in it. Being a racist is a participatory sport. You get in and you participate in the prejudice and bigotry that makes it racism. Now, don't listen to me. No, don't listen to me. I have a video of Judge Joe Brown, and he'll let you know on some background stuff. And I'll do my very best to not interrupt because I'm still slobber knockered by this. I'm like, what? 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 Okay, I'm done. Okay, let me move this up some.
Where they choose to be, if they do it well.
Is Trump a racist?
I don't think so. I've talked to a number of black entrepreneurs who back in the late 80s and 90s, early 90s, were trying to get financing. They couldn't. Somebody told them to go check with Donald Trump. So they come back and tell me they got a loan from Donald Trump. He gave them a term loan. Show up with the interest and the principal, one check. But they had to go see him personally. They independently relate this tale that when they saw him, he said, "This is what you supposed to pay me? This our agreement?" I said, "Yeah." And then tore the check up, shook.
All right, look, I'm still blown away by that. Still till this very day. Now, if Donald Trump were a racist, one of the last things he would do is help black men get a business and then be in direct competition. If he were a racist, nah, he wouldn't have done it. Zero, zilch, none. However, that was him as a businessman. Now, if you were to look at our present day right now, president now, Joe Biden, look at his policies. Because back at that time in the 80s and 90s, he was calling, at that time, he was calling black people super predators and put a lot of policies in place to exercise his racism. Remember, racism is not what you say, it's what you do. Okay.
And congratulations. Now run your business.
And this was when?
This was back in the 90s. See, most people don't even know this. He had a sister. He was, every time you saw him back in the 90s, fine paper bag, brown, beautiful black model. He likes fine women. He didn't have any problem with dating a black woman, walking her down red carpets. So, I mean, she says he's not a racist. He just doesn't like many people, black or white. And he appreciates people who do stuff within their lane.
And I most definitely agree. Now you have some people who are very blunt and says what all their mind, what's on their mind, and people are sensitive and say, "Oh, you're a racist." No, heck, I don't like a lot of people, but but liking people who do well at the things that they do. For an example, if you're a businessman and you're into importing and exporting, I don't know, let's say Comet, whatever, and you do good at that, and you do well, and your business is thriving, and your employees like you, and you are an asset to the community, why not like that person? That's what he's saying. Donald Trump likes people like that. He doesn't like terrible people. Who likes terrible people? I know I don't. And I'm around a lot of terrible people. But he's dropping some dimes. So far, I don't see where Donald Trump is a racist. What has he done to move forward on his racism, bigotry, or prejudice? But let's go ahead.
Will not stay in their lane, but where they choose to be, if they do it well, he admires them. Black, white, brown, red, yellow. Most people don't know this. He was the finance man behind Jesse Jackson's 2 runs for president.
Wow.
So, he talks, but I don't mind somebody talking. I think we've gotten too sensitive to that. That's part of the effeminization of the country.
Yep.
I remember in junior high and high school, hey man,
Oh my goodness. He is so right. This country is so feminized. Oh man. I mean, it's to the point to where guys run around and gossip and talk more than women do. I remember when I was young, boys didn't talk like, "Hey, ugh, 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 ugh." And the dozens, you couldn't be sensitive to play that. That's where you would sit there and crack on one another, make fun of one another, and you would come hard. And if you were overly sensitive, you had no business playing it. But now it's like, and he's right, the feminization. I remember I wrote something, some years ago when MySpace was in. I wrote something called The Pussification of Man. And believe me, when you look out there, that's exactly what you have. A lot of emotional, soft men. And now you have masculine women. Versus the roles have reversed. He's dropping, and Donald Trump is an alpha male. You may not like it, but let me go on.
Man, but last night when I saw your mama, man, you don't know I was over there because you was asleep, man. But blah, 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 blah. We ran the dozens. That was our sport. Mm-hmm. So we were used to talking about each other. Now, man, he talking about my mama, man. What's wrong with you?
Mm-hmm. Do you think Trump will get reelected?
I think he's going to get reelected. This impeachment mess we've got right now, there's a thing called the U.S. Constitution, and the Constitution says the president is the chief diplomatic officer of the United States. It puts no limits on his discretion. It simply says that if he comes up with any treaties, they have to be ratified by the Senate. If a treaty is ratified by the Senate, it becomes part of the supreme law of the land. The president and other elected and appointed officials are under oath required to follow the law of the land. The State Department, Secretary of State are part of his cabinet and are essentially advisors to the president. He's the boss. So what he does relative to Biden is simply what is allowed and mandated by the Constitution, specifically Article 1, Section 8, that says the president is charged with, quote, enforcing the law of nations. We have an Interpol treaty with various European states and also one specifically with the Ukraine that requires that we basically investigate, apprehend, prosecute, extradite criminal elements and criminality. So Biden, out of his own mouth, and I've heard this tape twice, January this year, he says, well, 2019, he says, I guess I broke some laws, extortion. I told the Ukrainians if they didn't get rid of this
The prosecutor.
prosecutor's name is Skoa.
I remember that. I remember that he said it at a Democratic conference. He came out and said that he told Russia, to get rid of that prosecutor. That prosecutor has to go or you don't get that money. Yes, you're not going to get my son. I remember that. And look at what he's doing. He's giving the country away. Just say, hey, take the United States. Come on, we'll give you any and everything. And that's exactly what Biden's doing. But I digress.
The
I think,
anti-corruption prosecutor.
yeah,
in
he said if you
Ukraine,
don't get rid of him, we'd withhold $85 billion in loan guarantees. So his son, who had just been discharged for the military for being a junkie, had a drug problem, had no history in business. He affiliates with this, and at the time, Biden was in charge of the U.S.'s Ukrainian posture and relations. Obama had assigned him that, and by implication, he brought Obama.
AKA what was in the laptops. That was what was in the laptops. All that information what Judge Joe Brown is talking about is what Biden did in his 4 laptops. And yes, he was high on whatever he was high on, and I still think Hunter Biden should be in jail. And since he's not in jail, any and everyone who had a drug charge, in my opinion, should be able to go ahead and get their records cleaned. Anyone who's in jail now should be released based on what Joe Biden did not do. His son should have been prosecuted for drugs and was not.
Obama into committing a crime in office, which is a felony. It's extortion. He committed one, extortion, by out of his own mouth, threatening to withhold $85 billion in loan guarantees if they didn't get rid of this prosecutor, who was zeroing in on that corporation that his son had just been hired to represent after Biden Sr. had been assigned by the president.
And if you look at my earlier videos, I talk about that company. Look at my earlier videos and where Hunter Biden was affiliated with Victoria Nuland, her, and Hunter Biden. You'll find out what oil and gas company it was.
At the task of dealing with Ukrainian diplomacy. So son gets $18.5 million out of it, and he has no background other than a dishonorable discharge from the armed services for drug abuse.
But one last question. Do you think black people are missing an opportunity with Trump?
Oh, yeah. See, you've got somebody that is not a lifetime.
Okay, before he gets into the politics of it, yeah, black people have missed out on an opportunity with Donald Trump, because black people were too busy listening to the Democrats of him saying he's a racist, he's a racist, he's a racist. But not one Democrat has come out and said, what did he do to be a racist? And keep in mind, I said earlier, being a racist is not a spectator sport. You participate in racism. You don't sit back in tennis like, just, no. You get in and you do something. And before you start saying, oh, you love Donald Trump, he's a racist, what's wrong with you, you're black, blah, blah, blah. Save it. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. I'm just giving you the information. Do what you want with it. Now, if you want to continue and say Donald Trump is a racist, but you're not looking at Joe Biden, who has proven himself to be a racist through what he has done, keep in mind, being a racist revolves around the verb of action. He acted on his racism. Just look at what he did. Here.
He's been a blue dog Democrat for most of his life.
I remember that.
Usurped the Republican Party. So I think this thing I've been tweeting about, no benefit, no vote, ought to be the deal. We haven't gotten a damn thing out of the Democratic Party for a long time. And the last one, number 44, and the one before that, 43, Bush and Obama. Well, there are pictures of Bush with his arm around 8-year-old Barack Obama because his stepdaddy, adopted daddy, Lolo Sotoro, had done.
This is where it gets deep. Man, OMG. They got me hook, line, and sinker. I drank the Kool-Aid. I drank the Barack Obama Kool-Aid. I want my vote back. I was hoodwinked, led astray, run amok. Brace yourself.
On a lifetime worth of business with the Bushes.
Wow.
Uncle George Herbert Walker, after whom George Herbert Walker Bush, Bush 1 president, was named, founded Halliburton in 1946 in Oklahoma. And Lolo Sotoro had been international executive vice president for Standard Oil.
There was talk of him being a CIA asset.
Well,
in
yeah,
Indonesia.
see, he ran the death squads for the Indonesian army. On his own call, anyone could be assassinated. So when George Herbert Walker Bush became head of the CIA under the Ford administration, he just got with his old buddy in the oil business, Lolo Sotoro, and pulled off the hits. See, Barack's grandmother has been acknowledged as being the woman that operated the channels through which CIA money went to the Southwest.
I hope you caught that. That Lolo Sotoro could pull off any hits that he wanted, and how George Herbert Walker Bush was. Just make sure that you heard that. This stuff gets deep, 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 deep.
Specific. So she introduced her daughter, who had just had Barry, Barack, to Lolo Sotoro, and they got married, and Lolo Sotoro adopted Barack Obama. The name was changed to Barry Sotoro. Now, when he went to high school in Hawaii, I know about that high school. I almost sent my oldest son to it. I could afford it, but I didn't think he deserved it. 20 years ago, the tuition was $95,000 a year, not including room and board. When Obama went there, I've talked to two of his classmates. They independently state that the tuition, not including room and board, was $45,000. Now, Business Insider reports his income for 2017 at over $200 million net. That's after taxes, deductions, write-offs. For this last year, 2018, they reported it as $570+ million, and that's after all the.
You can't make this stuff up. You can't. Look, remember when Barack Obama was debating against Mitt Romney, and he was talking about Mitt Romney and him making $20 million, and how Barack Obama made nowhere near that, and this, that. Go back to that. I wish I would have had it. I wish I would have found it. Debate. You can't make this stuff up. You just simply can't. I want my vote back.
Deductions, tax, right? Trump doesn't make that net. I mean, even some of the richest people in America don't make that. Why? because when his stepdaddy died, he was one of the 10, 15 richest men on earth. And he left everything in a trust fund operated out of Indonesia, so the American government can't touch it. That makes Barack Obama 1/3 beneficiary for the assets of one of the 10, 15 richest men on earth. See, so we got a game run on us. So, you know that little thing that Bush W does when he gets with Michelle, they giggle and he gives her candy. The inside thing, is that supposed to be the same kind of candy he used to give to her husband when he was 6, 7, 8 years old?
Oh, wow.
I don't know if any of you remember when Michelle Obama comes around and George W. Bush secretly gives her a candy and they sort of giggle and laugh together. Go back over that and you'll see it. You'll see it. I remember it was at whose funeral was it? McCain's funeral. And when George Bush came in and Michelle Obama and Michelle Obama and George Bush were sitting there talking, and they were sitting there like snickering and gave her candy and yeah. So again, I hope this answers some of your questions. Those of you who believe Donald Trump is a racist, continue believing what you choose to believe, but keep in mind, look at who's the real racist. Look at it, because you give him a pass, he could do whatever. Oh, well, he said he was sorry. Nah, he did not make anything right. I don't want to hear about no sorry or nothing. I want him to make what he did right, because he destroyed many families. Joe Biden destroyed many families, and I have to say, he destroyed mine. In his policies and and I'm not even going to get into it, but you can never, ever, ever come to me and tell me that Joe Biden has a black community's heart. And no, he doesn't. He does not. That is what racism looks like. You can see his microaggressions. You can tell it. But that's my personal thing, and let me go ahead and take my personal stuff out of it. But no. What do you think? And that's all what matters, what you think, not me. What do you think? I want to thank you for stopping by, because you could be anywhere, but you decide to stay here with me and listen to my video, because politics runs the world. Now, whether if you agree with the politics or not, put something down in the comment section. Whether if you agree or disagree with me, that is okay. We can agree to disagree, or we can agree to agree. So please help me get to 500 subscribers, and then help me get to 1,000 subscribers. And thank you for stopping by.